to the Flawless Fast Pitch community. Today we have a very special guest whom we love. She's been here in the past, and she's given us such wonderful advice that I decided to ask her back. But this is Melanie Rushing. If you remember, with her special guest, an adorable son, Patrick. You'll hear him happy in the background every once in a while. He's adorable. He's 8 months old. And today specifically, we're at a very timely point in the year where we only have about 4 weeks left until the season begins. And so hopefully you are working your mechanics, you are working your accuracy, you're working your speed, but you must be working your mental game at this point, okay? And that's what Mel is here to help us with, some things we can specifically do, some actionable steps we can have in the preseason to get us ready so we don't mentally frizz out like in the first couple weeks. Hello, Mel, and special guest Patrick. Okay.
This is actually a special guest. I took away his plaything. Oh. Well, thank you again for having me. Love being on this. Love chatting with you. And today, I want to talk about really preparing for the mental game, just like we prepare for all of our physical skills. So I know a lot of these mental tips and tricks can help in the moment, but for them to be lasting and so you don't have to keep going back to the same things, you really need to prepare and think ahead. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people in the preseason, they're only thinking about the physical game. They do some things to prepare the physical game. So what are some things that we should be doing now so we don't get 2 weeks in and realize, we're freezing up in scrimmages, or realize that we have trouble facing that really good batter, or realize, I know a problem I feel like I had a lot when I was playing is like, if you're playing not a very good team, you sort of like relax a little bit too much. You really only play up when there's really good competition. Like, what are some things we could be doing to prep for that?
Well, the main...
Patrick did not like the idea of not playing up to better competition.
No.
He's like, that sucks.
How dare you? Well, I think the main thing you need to do is know yourself. So being prepared, like, if you're better at pitching a drop ball or a changeup, if you're better at hitting inside or outside pitches, you need to know if you're better when you face really tough opponents, better when you're more relaxed, or like I was just like you, Julie, I would play much better in the clutch, and then when it was not engaging, I was terrible. Luckily, my teammates picked me up most of the time. But the main thing is knowing yourself, and then at least a little bit getting to know your teammates. I know sometimes you don't have a lot of time with other teammates. High school is a good time because you guys get a lot of days together, and then once you get to college, you get a ton of time.
Yes.
But even the littlest bit you can do to know what your teammates need mentally and where they excel and where they struggle. That way, when it comes to the moment where you're having a tough time, or even when it's a great moment, you can notice that and then use it for the future.
So it seems like we're talking about sort of prepping on 2 different levels here, which I think is a really important point, is that we have that level of preparation for ourselves, like, okay, let's get ourselves ready for the season, but we also have that level of preparation for, like, how we function as a team, which especially as you get into the latter part of the season, when we have playoffs and all that part I think becomes super important. So
absolutely.
Yeah, tell us how we can kind of integrate both a little bit. The preseason prep for ourselves and the preseason prep for our teammates,
I think they kind of go hand in hand, and I like to do these types of activities almost as a team building activity. So let's start off with just commitment. Not just. Start off with commitment. You have to start there, right? It's not just at all. So what I would like to do is, as a team, discover our personal, not just levels of commitment, but our whys of why we're there, what we like to get out of softball, what makes it fun, what makes it enjoyable, what keeps us coming back when the days are tough, or like you said, what keeps us going, if you will. And then as you each are sharing, that's how you're getting to know your teammates too. Like, you love competing too? Okay, like I can go to you when I need to have more competitive edge. Or, yeah, tell me more. Or you like to play because you like the feeling of family and camaraderie. Yeah, like maybe that's my person I need to go to. So I think you can do them hand in hand if you just talk it out together.
Mm-hmm. So let's say, for example, we have like a kind of totally different rapport between like a pitcher and a catcher, or then kind of like the coach and the team. I mean, if you're a coach out there listening to this, what can you do to facilitate that sort of discussion between your teammates and things like that?
Yeah, well, shameless self-promotion. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you guys ever want to go check it out, it's basically a PowerPoint and me talking through what these strengths look like. So start there. Okay, what does it mean to be truly committed? It means you know your goals. That means you do extra. You are very clear with what you want and how to get there. And then knowing that, okay, so outfielders spend a lot of time together in practice. Okay, they're going to be a little bit closer. So maybe, okay, outfield, you pair with a catcher. Pitcher, pair with an infielder. That way, you're each getting to know each other a little bit better. And then in a game, you know, like, hey, she just, like, completed something that she wanted to do. She wanted to strike out the side this game, and she did it. So really paying attention to what others want and need gets you all on the same page. So for coaches, it's just, even if you have, like, 'cause we all have rainouts, right? We all have,
Yes.
not all, a lot of us have gym days. It's a nice time to, like, sit down together before an extra hitting drill and then get to know, okay, let's set out our why for the season. Why do you like to be here? Okay, what are our big goals this season? We want to make it to the state tournament. We want to get this many people onto the all-county or all-conference team. So breaking it down from there, then, hey, what are our small goals? And then you can have goal buddies with those pairs I was talking about. So you can start from the top and kind of work it down.
So let's just say hypothetically, you know, you're coaching a team, and I feel like for me this is really good information because it could be on any level. You're saying to yourself, like, okay, like I can kind of pair up a lot of my players and say, like, okay, you know, you two are going to set some goals and you're going to hold each other accountable for that, and you two are going to do some goals and hold each other accountable for that. That's really good. And I also, I just want to emphasize, guys, just how important that is, because most of us will tend to kind of fall into our same old patterns unless we have someone else who is holding us accountable. Like that is really a very important thing for any goals you set in life, not strictly your goals in sport. So I like that whole idea. So that's something we could do, like from a coaching standpoint, from standpoint of teammates. And if you have 4 weeks to do that right now, I think that's like kind of an ideal scenario. So then what about in terms of those individual practices that you could be doing on a daily basis that will set you up in your season?
So you know what you want, you got your goals. I think it's important to touch on the other components of mental toughness. So the next one on my list I always have is competitive. So my definition of competitive is competing with yourself every day to get just a little bit better. What was it? Kaizen?
Yes, that's Japanese. Love it.
Yes. So it's a lovely concept, and it resonates with a lot of people, but how do you put it into action? Because that's all that really matters. You can take in all this great info. If you don't put it to work, it's useless. Right. So every day, every practice, you have to figure out, okay, what is my 1% better today? If I'm a pitcher working on spots, okay, what's 1% better? Yesterday, I hit 4 out of 10 spots correctly. Today, I'm going to go 6 out of 10. That's the 1%, small. And if you get those 6, shoot, go right on up to that. But even if you get that 1 better, you're 5 out of 6, or that 2 better, 6 out of 10. Then you count it. So having that, it's also the growth versus fixed mindset that I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. Lots of great videos on that. I can send you later if you'd like. But
I do think
really,
a lot of people don't know what that is. It's so just as a quick background, so a lot of people feel like, oh, I am where I am, and that's what I'm going to be, and blah, 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 and that would be the fixed mindset. And the growth mindset is like, you basically can get better every day. I mean, that's kind of in short summation, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Fixed mindset, I'm born with this amount of ability, that's just as good as I'm going to get. That kind of thing. Right,
which is a bunch of malarkey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know where it came from, but it is incorrect.
Yes. Well, actually, I was reading Biology of Belief, which is a very interesting book, which I highly recommend. But it kind of went down through science through the ages, and how there's kind of like this whole thing where, for a while everything was just genetics until I guess they did the Human Genome Project, and they kind of started realizing, well, wait a minute. Now, really what it's all about now, guys, is epigenetics, and how you kind of rise above your genetics through your actions and your environment and things like that. And that, I think, is exactly what we're talking about in terms of growth mentality. Is it's like, okay, you can be born with certain physical traits and certain, body types, but you can always rise above that, from a mental standpoint. I mean, you see even amazing stories with people who are born with physical disabilities, all these sorts of things that completely rise above that, So, yeah, something to look into. Very good.
Absolutely. Oh, God, we can go a whole...
Yeah, we can talk the whole time about just that, I think.
But I love that. And that's something you can do every single day, is just keep pushing yourself a little bit farther, and being okay when you don't make huge leaps, and really celebrating when you even make small steps.
Yes. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do, is that they don't celebrate kind of the small steps. But the small steps, especially if you've read like the compound effect and everything, are the things that lead to large gains over time, So perhaps, for example, you have been hit with a line drive in the past. And I think that's an issue for a lot of positional players in the infield, particularly because, the bat technology is amazing. You get really super close to the hitter when you're fielding, things like that. And then maybe for a while, you can't even get out on the field. And then eventually you can do it, you can field with a softie and a face mask. And then eventually, you just kind of like baby step to the point where you're like, what, I'm not afraid of the ball anymore.
Yep. Absolutely. And I challenge my girls. I've done an exercise with a few people where you go through 10 reps. I say 10 reps, and your goal is to get this effect. So if you're hitting 10 line drives, all right, so you go through the 10 reps, and then at the end I ask, how many did you do well? 8 out of 10 people don't know how many they hit as a line drive. Ask how many they did wrong. Oh yeah, like 6. Okay. A, usually it's like over exaggerated. And then B, like, you count those wins, count every little one, and then instead of beating yourself up for the bad ones, learn from it. So that's double whammy. I love the quote. I can't remember who said it. I never fail, I win or I learn.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
it's genius. And it's not easy. You have to practice that. Like, okay, maybe someone grew up with someone in their ear saying that, but that's not like a native concept. You have to practice that. So when I finally got better at the mental game, I would say it out loud. So I would go through like a bucket of front toss, and every time like, oh, okay, head down. Real quick, move on. And then next one, yes, good line drive. And then next one, oh, okay, that was almost it. Next one, da-da-da. So if you are practicing just no judgment, quick information, move on, count your wins, that's truly competitive. Because think of it at bat to at bat in a game, especially pitchers. Like, you have a ton of opportunities to succeed or fail. And if you're counting anytime a batter gets on base as a fail, even if they like dribble the ground and they just happen to beat it out, or that little bloop that finds a hole, if you're counting all those as a fail, you're right. It's never going to feel good. You're never going to be like, it's okay, it's cool, I got her to bloop. But you can at least be like, all right, she got jammed on the inside. Next time I'm going to go even harder on the inside, and we're going to get that out. Because sometimes it's completely out of your control. Yes. What if one of your teammates makes an error? Like, are you going to hate them? You're going to be upset in the moment, yeah. But you're not going to hate them. So what is your other option? Let it go, move on. Maybe you tell yourself, well, I got a grounder, and that worked. I'm going to do it again next time.
Yes, exactly. And I think the whole thing about, like, learning to sort of, like, move on. It's not that you don't care about the outcome of that. And I think that's what people are conditioned to think sometimes. It's like, oh, well, if I don't get upset, I don't care. No, you're learning to regulate your emotions so your response is appropriate. And so that you're able to manage throughout the game. And I think that's why it's so important that we start working that mental game now, because you talk about the idea of like a quick fix, which the mental game will seem like a lot, but why is it that we really can't have a quick fix from a mental standpoint?
It's because you can't have a quick fix for anything in life.
Very true.
Let's be honest. Even things that seem like a quick fix, it's really a bunch of things that you did in the past that added up, and when things clicked.
Yes.
Like the one thing that Coach said that like made sense, it was because you learned all those other things in the past. It wasn't magical words that got through to your brain better. Same thing with like one way that everyone loves that is quick. In theory, is a deep breath. Yes, right away it calms your nerves. But the deep breath doesn't create a competitor. It doesn't create a good pitcher. It doesn't create good spin. It frees your mind to do what you've already trained yourself to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it'll work in that moment. But if you're having to go back every single pitch and do this, your brain's gonna be like, forget it, I'm tired. I'm just anxious. I'm just nervous. I'm just full of doubt. I can't handle it. So it's training yourself all these little things up before that deep breath. Where in the moment, if you just need a little calmness, then it will work for the rest of the game as opposed to just that next pitch.
That's okay. So that's very interesting. So in so far as like kind of, so the mental game kind of builds on your physical skills and vice versa, right? So how do we kind of like wrap those two things together, especially in the preseason?
Mm-hmm. I'd say give a mental purpose to every physical drill.
Oh! Did you guys just write that down? That's so awesome. Oh. Okay. Hope you wrote that down.
Like, because why not? Like, why just wait until, like, oh, I should have been more confident. Now I'll work on this. No. That's one of the drills. That's one of the stations. So, hey, it's called confidence, since I said it. So, the confidence piece, I think the biggest issue is usually not giving yourself credit when credit is due. And then the opposite, being too hard on yourself on the bad things. So this whole drill or this whole lesson, all you're focusing on is counting wins and flipping mistakes. So every single rep, was that a win? No. Okay, how do I flip it? I need more leg drive. Next.
Ooh.
So every single time it's one or the other. Oh boy. And you can actually physically count the wins by like, we always did paper clips because for some reason there's always an abundance of paper clips. So we had like a pile of paper clips, and then every time there was a win, they would grab one and put it in a new pile.
Oh, that's awesome.
retaliate, anything like that. That's physically counting wins so that you can look back, because I guarantee you'll forget it if you try to just keep it in your mind. So
Right.
count those wins and then move on. And then if you really like the analytical part of the game, and if your brain can handle it, because I was one where I needed to just play and then analyze later, you can even jot down keywords for the corrections. So if 5 different pitches out of 10 you've said leg drive, just jot that one down.
Yeah.
So you make a note.
Right.
But if one time you were focusing on leg drive so much that you forgot to keep your circle tight, no big deal. You can let that one go for this session.
Right.
But that whole time you're working on building your true confidence, which is your ability to perform and adjust.
That's awesome. And I think, well, knowing yourself a little bit better, I feel like, being able to assess and evaluate your own mental state is like really, really important. So, Mel is putting together something really awesome right now. And I just think this is a wonderful opportunity because I'm all about beta testing anything I create. Just because, well, Mel and I, part of the reason we get along so well is because we're both mildly OCD. And we like to kind of, control as much as we can. But doing a beta group basically means that you get all this sort of information that we busted our ass to create, that we spent, weeks and months and years developing, except you kind of get it ahead of everyone else because we want to make sure that that perfectionist in us has kind of done everything possible we could to make it great. So tell us about this beta group that you're going to be running, because I personally think this is awesome.
Yes, so the beta group. So I'm putting together a comprehensive mental skills training specifically for softball. So kind of some of the things I just talked about. You'll be able to assess and find out what your strengths are. So, are you competitive? Do you need work on? Do you need work on your confidence? He says he is very composed.
Yes.
He needs work on composure. That one. But then from there, we talk about the mental skills that I talked about with you, but more in depth. So if I want to be competitive, I need to have the right mindset. And this is how you have the right mindset. And then from there, we'll do some activities. I always like to throw in a fun game. I always do minute to win it with my girls. So something similar to that, where it's like a fun little hey, let me see if I can shoot this paperclip into the bowl over there. But all at the same time, I'm practicing my confidence because I'm confident at that distance, but what if I push it farther back? And if I'm throwing the paperclip, I missed that one because I threw it way too far. So I need to go lighter. That's the same thing as what we're doing in softball. And then the next step, I'll give you a drill, like we were talking about with going through and counting every rep and paying attention to either wins or flipping it to the feedback. So that I'll do that for all of the C's. So also in control, which is more focus, composed, like the energy and emotions that come with performance. Going through all of those, and then it'll basically give you the mental fundamentals of the game. Like we always do everydays with physical skills, right? I want to be able to give you the everydays for your mental skills. So when we're out on the field before a game and you're on your knees rolling ground balls to each other, you can also be working on your focus, getting yourself ready with your goals for the day, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and to join the two, I feel it makes really powerful players, because we've had this conversation when we've had Rob Cruz on in the past as well, that essentially every player you've had succeed at a super high level, at a Division I level, you can talk to all those athletes and they are almost going to sound the same in some respects. It's a very tough, what's the word I'm looking for? it's a very tough thing to pinpoint necessarily, but you can say, all these girls have that same characteristic, that same type of like swag and things like that. But that is about tying the mental to the physical. It isn't just about the mental. And it isn't just about the physical, because I can tell you, I've had girls who physically could easily play well at a Division I level, but struggle even at a Division III level, because just mentally they don't have that component to kind of tie everything together. And Patrick thinks that's really sad. That's really upset him just now. So sorry, Patrick.
I'm drooling a lot.
That's why Mel is here to help them out with all that.
But yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I was listening to another podcast yesterday, and it was cool. Savannah Jaquish from LSU. I played with her older sister, so I always felt like, oh, little Savannah's grown up to be such a good player. Whoa. But it was funny, right at the beginning of the interview, because she just made the Olympic team, and he asked how it went, and she's like, well, yeah, I just didn't expect perfectionism out of it. I didn't expect to be perfect. And I think that's what put me above the others. I was like, oh, she's so spot on. Like, of course, everyone there has perfectionist tendencies because they're amazing and they've done really big things in our sport. But she freed herself to perform in those, just 3 days? 1 of skills and 2 of playing? Like, that's pressure. And that's how she said. She just said, I didn't expect myself to be perfect. So building those expectations in every day, I'm sure LSU helped her perform and make the team.
That's awesome. Oh, yeah, and I've heard something similar from a few different Olympic athletes that they've done something very similar.
Love that. Love that.
So what Mel wanted to do for you guys, she has created a page for people who kind of want to do this beta program, which I thought is really great. Do you want to just tell us about the page for this beta group that you created?
My gosh, can you hear her at all? There we go. Continue.
Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the page that you created for the beta group of your program? Patrick's like, no.
Nap time. So that, oh my gosh, that page is, so the start of, you know what, I'm going to make a new page. I'm going to write mentalsweetspot.com/beta, BETA, and that I'll just have a place where you can sign up, and then I will send you a link to the free mental strength evaluation.
I am like 2 months away from this, so you know.
Oh no. Is that oh okay? We want to snuggle. We tired. And that way, if you guys sign up there, I will have your email and be able to send you the information when the beta is ready. But then you'll also be able to start right away, just assessing where your strengths lie and where are your areas for improvement. So mentalsweetspot.com/beta. I'll put that together right after this. And he has my headphone now.
Okay, so on that note, Mel, it's so good to talk to you. I'm going to let you go because obviously, someone's a little sleepy. But
sorry, guys.
Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. It's such valuable stuff, guys, about tying the mental to the physical in the preseason. So make sure you check that out at mentalsweetspot.com. And hopefully we will all be talking again soon.
Yes. Thank you again for having me. Patrick says bye. Sorry I was cranky.
Well, that's kind of like being a baby and teething and doing all that sort of stuff. That's how that goes. So, right, Patrick? See you later.